Wherever there is great property, there is great inequality. For one very rich man, there must be at least 500 poor. Good morning, socio-political lovers. This is Randolph Pardinas Lagrama, student of philosophy, third year collegian of the Sacred Heart Seminary. I will be discussing today the socio-political philosophy of Adam Smith. He is our guide to perhaps one of the most pressing dilemmas of our time: how to make a capitalist economy more humane and more meaningful. But before that, let me first shed some light about the life of the philosopher. Come on! He was born in Scotland in Kirkcaldy, a small manufacturing town near Edinburgh in 1723. He was a hard-working student and very close to his mother, just like me. He learned Latin, mathematics, history, and writing.
Sana all, di ba?
He then became an academic philosopher, wrote a major book about the importance of sympathy, and lectured on logic and aesthetics. He was also one of the greatest thinkers in the history of economics, in part because his concerns went far beyond economic. In fact, he was also considered as the father of economics. Smith is also known for creating the concept of gross domestic product, or GDP, and for his theory of compensating wage differentials. According to this theory, dangerous or undesired jobs tend to pay higher wages as a way of attracting workers to these positions. You know what? He actually wanted to understand the money system because his underlying ambition was to make the nations and people happier. How amazing Smith was. I hope you too are also thinking for the happiness of people. Anyway, Smith remains an invaluable guide for 4 ideas: specialization, consumer capitalism, how to treat the rich, and educate consumers. When one considers the modern world of work, 2 facts stand out. First, modern economies produce unprecedented amounts of wealth. Second, many ordinary people find work rather boring and a key complaint, meaningless. The 2 phenomena are in fact intimately related with each other. As Smith was the first to understand through his theory of specialization, he observed in modern businesses tasks formerly done by one person in a single day could far more profitably be split into many tasks, carried out by multiple people over whole careers. Smith hailed this as a momentous development. He predicted that national economies would become hugely richer the more specialized the workforces became. One sign that our world is now rich, Smith could tell us, is that every time we meet a stranger at a party, we're unlikely to understand what they do. The mania of or incomprehensible job titles, logistics, supply manager, packaging, coordinator, security agent, professor, communications, and learning officers prove the academic logic of Smith's insight. But there is one huge problem with this specialization. Meaning, when businesses are small and their processes contained a sense of helping others is readily available. But when everything is industrialized, one ends up as a tiny cog in a gigantic machine whose overall logic is liable to be absent from the minds of people lower down in the organization. A company with 150,000 employees distributed across 4 continents, making things that take 5 years from conception to delivery, will struggle to maintain any sense of purpose and cohesion. So, Smith discerned that bosses of the specialized corporations of modernity, therefore, have an extra responsibility to their workers to remind them of the purpose and role and ultimate dignity of their labor. Smith's age saw the development of what we now call consumer capitalism. Manufacturers began turning out luxury goods for broadening middle class. Some commentators were appalled. The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau wished to ban luxury from his native Geneva. He was a particular fan of ancient Sparta and argued that his city should copy its austere martial lifestyle. Disagreeing violently, Smith pointed out to the Swiss philosopher that luxury consumerism in fact had a very serious role to play in a good society. It generated surplus wealth that allowed societies to look after their weakest members. Consumer societies, despite their frivolity, didn't let young children and the old starve, for they could afford hospitals and poor relief. So Smith defended consumer capitalism on the basis that it did better for the poor than societies devoted to high ideals. That being said, Smith held out some fascinating hopes for the future of capitalism. He didn't want it to stay stuck at a frivolous level forever. He observed that humans have many higher needs that currently lie outside of capitalist enterprise. Among these, our need for education, for self-understanding, for beautiful cities, and for rewarding social lives. The hope for the future is that we'll learn to generate sizable profits from helping people in truly important, ambitious ways. Properly developed capitalism shouldn't just service our basic material needs while inciting us to buy frivolous things. It should make money from goods and services that deliver true fulfillment. Then, as of now, the great question was how to get the rich to behave well towards the rest of society. The Christian answer to this was make them feel guilty. Meanwhile, the radical left-wing answer was then and now raise taxes. But Smith disagreed with both approaches. The hearts of the rich were likely to remain cold, and high taxes would simply lead the rich to flee the country. He proposed that, contrary to what one might expect, it isn't money the rich really care about. It is honor and respect. The rich accumulate money not because they are materially greedy, but primarily in order to be liked. Rather than taxing the rich, governments should understand the vanity at the heart of the rich and their motivations. They should therefore give the rich plenty of honor and status in return for doing all the good things that these narcissists wouldn't normally bother with, like funding schools and hospitals and paying their workers well. As Smith put it, the great secret of education is to direct vanity to proper objects. Big corporations feel very evil to us now. The natural targets of blame for low-paying jobs, environmental abuse, and sickening ingredients. But Smith knew there was an unexpected and more important element responsible for these ills: our taste. It's not companies that primarily degrade the world, it is our appetites which they merely serve. As a result, the reform of capitalism hinges on an odd-sounding but critical task: the education of the consumer. We need to be taught to want better quality things and pay a proper price for them, one that reflects the true burden on workers and the environment. A good capitalist society doesn't just offer consumers choice, it also teaches people to exercise this choice in judicious ways. Capitalism can, Smith suggests, be saved by elevating the quality of consumer demand. The economic state of the world can seem at once so wrong and yet so complicated. We end up collapsing into despair and passivity. Adam Smith is on hand to lend us confidence and hope. His work is full of ideas about how human values can be reconciled with the needs of businesses. He deserves our ongoing attention because he was interested in an issue that has become a leading priority of our own times: how to create an economy that is at once profitable and civilized. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.